Now it's time for us to add an artifact. Usually artifacts are found in the sift. Sometimes you may find them in the process of excavation. It all depends on where you're excavating in the site. Many times, particularly in Jordan where we excavate, you might not find very many artifacts in an entire season, whereas in other sites it may be loaded with them. So the process as far as recording artifacts is found in your dig manual. So make sure again that you go and you look at the dig manual. All I'm going to do is show you how artifacts are processed on this database. So we're going to do that by, from the Locus information or any other tab, we can always select the artifact tab, just like that. Or if we are in somewhere else, we can also hit that button down in the left-hand corner that says artifacts, just like so. And what you are going to see now is what looks like a pink identification tag. Now on our projects, we have our identification tags which identify artifacts, objects, and samples. They're pink in color. Now they can be any color. I just matched the ones that were specific to our project. So here I have something that looks very similar to our pink identification tag. And let's just assume that in the process of excavation you sifted out and somebody found an object. So you will make a pink identification tag for that object. You'll fill out the information on that identification tag, and then you'll bring it back where it can be examined. Usually it is taken to the pottery table and it is laid out on the pottery table so that the artifacts can be seen in the context of their ceramics. Depending on your project, that's something your field supervisor or your director or ceramicist will decide. So based upon whatever that project uses, whatever process they use, then you just need to apply this method to recording it onto the database. So here it is. You're basically going to just basically put everything that's exactly the same that's on the card goes here in the database. We're trying to preserve everything. And the way that's done is we see the tag. You also notice that it has a selected pail. So we select the pail, which is pail number 1. Now we have only put in one square, one locus, B1, locus 1, and now we have pail 1. Now we're going to add our first object, and what we do is we select the new button where it says new and then select that number 1. Now what it has done, you'll notice that it has given you a pail number and it's automatically giving you a sample or our field object number. Now these sample and field object numbers are sequential by locus, not by pail. Sequential numbers by pail are pottery objects, pottery when they are registered as objects. But when it comes to artifacts, objects, or samples, they are based upon the locus. So with every new locus, you start with a new number 1. Whereas pails, the square has only one number 1 pail, only one number 2 pail. So this is locus 1 and its first object number 1. And now we're going to put in the date, select the date. Oops, let's make sure we don't forget that. Select the date. There it is. We're going to insert today's date, the date of the recording. And then it's going to ask you what type of object is this. Is it an artifact? Is it an object? Is it a sample? Now a sample is pretty easy. Samples include any number of different types of things. If you're wondering what that means, just click that info dot and it'll give you an idea of what objects are. Objects are items found in an excavation which have at least a degree of museum value. This is from the dig manual. So the difference between an object and an artifact is defined in the dig manual, where an object is something that might go to a museum. However, you need to discuss this with your field supervisor and your director as to whether or not your project defines an object as something that goes to the museum or whether it's an artifact that goes to the museum. There is some confusion there, so just make sure that you know which is which. I'm going to select that right now. I think this is an artifact, not headed to the museum. Okay, now where was it found? You'll notice that in the lower right hand corner there is a grid. That's your square that you're excavating, and locus 1, it was all that gray area, which is now all in tan, and it's tan because this is an earth locus, and the earth locus sheets originally were this sort of browny orangey tanny color. So we're going to select, okay, where was it found approximately? Now, if it was found in the sift, you may not know, but we're going to say since it came out of this particular pail, we know that that pail was at the very beginning when we did the strip from 7, 13, 19, 25, and 31, and we think that it came from the first one since it was found almost immediately, so I'm able to say that this came from 7. And notice what happens. Immediately a green, that area where we think that the object was found, that location, becomes green. And if I click an info dot, it tells me a location number includes a number of the reference squares in which the find was made. So in this case, we think the find was made in locus 7. Now, if it comes from the sift, you may not know. And so you just have to leave that blank. Hopefully, somebody will immediately spot it and say, hey, look, this was found. Whereabouts did this soil come from? And that's the best case scenario. Now, often you might find an object, maybe it's something special, like we found this beautiful jar once in one of our squares. That was an object. It was a beautiful object. So we knew exactly where that was. So we could put that number in, and we could take a level. So we brought in GPS, or we brought in a transit, and we put a level. So if you can, and you do find an object in situ, and you can put in a level, put in the elevation at which it is found. If you can get a GPS coordinate in there, then you put your GPS coordinates. Now we look at what kind of condition is it in, and it says, is it mendable, is it fragile? In this case, we're going to say fragile because I think we're going to, and then where did it come from? We're going to say it came from the sift. So this is the basic information. You fill this out just the same way that you fill it out in the card. What is important here is how do we put in a picture? And the way you put in the picture is the way we've done it in other places. We can use the insert photo button. If we use the insert photo button, we get this little box. You can fill out what category of photography. You can give this thing a name if you already know what it is, and so on. You put the pail number in, and then you just tap on the box, and then it'll give you a place where you can replace this blank box. Actually, that little mountain thing is registering as a photograph. Or if you're not going to do it that way, and I don't want to do it that way, I'm going to do it the iPad way, which is the way I like the best, is just to tap on it. It says, where is the photo at? It's in the photos. Remember, you can take a picture with it with the iPad directly into the database, but it will not be stored on the iPad. So remember, take a picture of it first and then come back and insert it like I'm going to do here. So I'm going to hit all photos. I'm going to scroll down and see if I can find an object here, and I know we have some that were found in, here we go. And so for us, here's one of our pink tags. You can see we're looking for pink tag, and the pink tag we are looking for, keep scrolling, there we go. And so here you can see a pink tag, and these are different objects. And what I want you to notice is that when the object was taken, a photograph was taken of this object, it includes the pink tag. You want to be able to see the pink tag in the photograph. So here's a good example. We're going to start with this one here. Here we go. Now let's take a look at it because we want to get a good picture of it. And notice, now this is a very small fragment. It's a little small piece of metal. And it was found in the sift, and it is field object number 1. This is what a pink tag looks like. Notice that we have taken the object and the tag in the same picture, and that means that we can cross-reference and just check to make sure, because sometimes people make mistakes, and what happens is that they may put the wrong information, and you just say, oh well, let's look at the tag. Is it the tag that's wrong, or is it the information that's wrong? So now that I know that this is a piece of metal, I can now go here and say, okay, let's scroll here for metal, and I put metal down, and then it's going to say your field number and so on. And everything is done. Doesn't that look cool? And every time you want to add a new one, you just click new, you select the pail that you're in, and then hit the new button. Now we can also look at this in a list. So we can actually click the list button, and it'll show us the objects within a list, and the picture will show up. Oops, I hit the wrong button. Let's go back to the last, and then we hit last, we go back to artifact, and we can also see it in a gallery view. So we tap the artifact and immediately it comes up to the gallery. And what a gallery is, it's sort of an overview of all of the pictures that you have assigned to this particular pail. Here you can see we've only put one picture in, so only one picture appears in the gallery, and I'll try to show one that has multiple pictures. You have a list button. You tap the list button, and if you had a lot of artifacts you would see them in a list here. And you also have a photo button, which is the one that shows you the main photo, and you can zoom in on that main photo and take a good look at it here. You can see a big picture of it by zooming in by pinching or expanding your fingers after you place them on the iPad. You can see that there's also site information, the field, locus. You can see season, square, locus type. You tap the artifact, it says artifact, metal, pail 1, and also there's metadata, that is information about the camera, which includes that this was an Apple iPad Pro that took the picture. It is 72 by 70 DPI resolution, which you're seeing right now, and then it was created, the date that it was created. You also have other information such as adding the photo title, its location. You can also put in keywords here. Just tap in and you can put in add keywords. If we go now back to the gallery, we can then tap the back button and it takes us back to where we were. So if we want to add another one, we just simply press again the new button like we saw there. Now we're going to find a photo by tapping on the object photo, and then we're going to scroll through our photos until we can find an artifact or a sample or something that we can use for this particular demonstration. So I'm going to keep going till I find something. Here we go. Here's one. We'll tap there, and since I don't know what it is, I'm going to look at it carefully, and I can see now that it is a glass sample. So I can tap the done button, and now I can put in, and I'm going to just put today's date in, insert like so, and then I'm going to put current date. There we go. We're going to put the type, and this is glass. So there's glass. And you notice that it automatically put in number 2. That is object number. And if you've forgotten what that C represents, just tap that info button, and it'll tell you field number is a sequential number series beginning with 1 for each locus. So in this locus now we've added a second field number. We can now choose whether this is artifact or sample. In our case it's a sample. And where was it found? But this one we're going to say, okay, it was found in location 8, and you can see a little green box has highlighted 8. And if we knew the level, we could add the level, the total pieces. In this case, we have only one piece, because sometimes glass fragments you might have 3, 4, 5 that you want to keep together for some reason, and you can contact your field supervisor to ask them what is best, what condition it is. It's fragile because, well, it is glass. And then where did we find it? We found it in the sift. So this is all of the information about this particular object. And before we tap the gallery button, we want to make sure that we hit the update button. And once we've done that, when I tap that gallery button, notice what's going to happen. You're going to see now 2 objects here. One, a metal artifact, and the other, a glass sample. And again, you can tap the list button and see them in the list, and then you can tap the photo button and find, photo button then next, and then we can see the second one where it says number 2. We can see the photograph of the sample. Now normally I would put the glass fragments or other things on or close to the bag so we can actually see the object. But I believe that the glass fragment is probably inside this particular bag. So now if I want to pinch it just a little so that it retakes its shape, I can go back to gallery and I can see the 2 artifacts that we have from field number 1 and field number 2. Once I tap the back button, here I am right back where we started. So now we've come back, and that is how you do artifacts. So far we've covered the locus information, the locus data, the supervisor, the pottery, the artifacts. We also covered the staff, the photos, stop plans, and now we're going to look at our next step.